NFL, where Kirk Cousins isn't going anywhere, at least for now. The Falcons kept the veteran QB on their roster past 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. That triggered. Cousins was benched in Week 16 after throwing 9 picks and 1 touchdown in a stretch of 5 games. We now welcome in our NFL insider, Jeremy Fowler, with us right now. And Cousins, as I mentioned, benched in Week 16. The keys were handed to the rookie Michael Penix Jr., but it looks like Cousins is staying in Atlanta, at least for the foreseeable future. What's the Falcons' plan with the quarterback?
Well, I mean, I continue to hear that the Falcons are not overly motivated to move Kirk Cousins right now. They're willing to be patient. As one team source told me, what's the rush? We've already locked into $37.5 million in additional guarantees for 2025 moving forward. And so they're going to kind of feel this out. It might be 2 months. It might be 2 weeks. It might be 6 months. They haven't made that sort of firm determination as far as how long he'll be in a Falcons uniform. But the sense I get from teams is that it simply would just take a big financial package because they need a lot of money to try to offset that $37 million. They need somebody to step in. So Cleveland has scoured the earth for quarterback help. Yeah. We know that. They have familiarity with Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, a former coordinator for Kirk Cousins. So Cleveland is still a team to watch until they fill that void at that spot. But they don't have a lot of money to spend. Yeah. That's part of the issue.
Yeah, you got to have some money if you're going to bring a quarterback. And speaking of quarterbacks, some big-name QBs still looming on the free agency market. What's the latest around the league, starting with, of course, Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, well, I'm told from sources that Rodgers does have standing offers from the Pittsburgh Steelers and New York Giants. I checked with a source from one of those teams about a timeline for Rodgers. I got back a text with the Webster's Dictionary of the word enigma. And so that's kind of the feeling right now. Teams are waiting this out, waiting on Rodgers. The feeling is there's not just a money consideration here. There's fit, there's surroundings, all those things. Minnesota Vikings are sort of on the periphery here. Sources there tell me that it's possible they get involved with Rodgers, but the feeling this week has been probably not. They want to develop J.J. McCarthy. Then you got Russell Wilson. So he made 2 visits this week. Cleveland Browns on Thursday, New York Giants on Friday. So he is really in that number 2 seat. Whatever Rodgers decides, Will shakes out with the dominoes. And look, Russell can decide, hey, do I want to just go sign with Cleveland right now? Do it ahead of Rodgers. He has at least that option. We'll see. And then you got the Cincinnati Bengals are going to spend a lot of money coming up. They are close to deals with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, both their receivers. We're looking at probably $70 million a year in an investment for both of those. Talking to teams, they expect Chase's new deal to have a 4 in front of it. Maybe even $41 million is the highest paid non-quarterback. Higgins will probably come in somewhere just under $30 million. That's the feeling right now. Trey Hendrickson, too, they got a pass rusher. He wants to be paid. He wants a trade if Cincinnati's not going to pay him. Yeah. They've still been quietly negotiating a little bit, trying to find a sweet spot, but there are teams interested in making a trade. So we'll see if they can pull off paying all 3. It's going to be really tough.
A lot of big price tags in Cincinnati right now, but all worthy of being paid as well. Jeremy Fowler with the latest.
Free agency has been busy this week, including a big move yesterday. Cooper Kupp staying in the NFC West as the former Rams wideout will head north to his home state and join the Seahawks on a 3-year, $45 million deal. Kupp was in L.A. for the last 8 seasons. He won the Triple Crown in 2021. Catch passes from Sam Darnold next season in what will be both of their first seasons in Seattle. Sounds like we need the Fowler Files. Jeremy Fowler is here with always the suspenseful music, but gotta tell you, nothing really suspenseful about it right now, Fowler, because we know that Cooper Kupp is going to Seattle. So what can you tell us about how this came to fruition?
Well, Shay, the Seahawks really recruited Cooper Kupp hard this week. They put the full court press on him. They showed him how he can start his next NFL chapter and be great with their offense, how he can blend in with Jackson Smith and Jigba. He talked with the coaches this week. So Denver was involved loosely, the New Orleans Saints a little bit, the Cowboys checked in. But Seattle, I'm told, was really the most aggressive, and they had a competitive contract. So they're going to pair Kupp with Sam Darnold, and he's a Southern Washington kid. So going home, he had the local flair that the Seahawks could play off of. Cincinnati Bengals, some big news should be coming down soon as the team is negotiating with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and they've made a lot of progress, as reports have said. This is the expectation that these two will make a combined around $70 million per year on new deals. They're also still trying with Trey Hendrickson, the pass rusher. Their goal has been to sign all 3 of those players. Still a chance they could pull it off.
Okay, so Cincinnati made promises that they were going to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback, and it sounds like that's a promise that they're going to keep. But now what about the defense if they don't sign Trey Hendrickson? Yeah. We'll probably talk about that sooner rather than later.
No doubt.
Aaron Rodgers. Stop me if you've heard this before. We're all waiting to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. What is the holdup, Jeremy?
Well, the holdup is he's taking his time to figure out what's right for him. But I've talked to a source who said the Minnesota Vikings are sort of loosely involved here, but the expectation is they wouldn't go too heavy here because they're concerned about J.J. McCarthy's development, but they are at least lurking. The two main players still appear to be the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New York Giants. I'm told they have standing offers out to Rodgers. He is mulling them. The sentiment around the league is that he could be a Pittsburgh Steeler, but nothing official yet. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson has made 2 free agency visits this week. Cleveland Browns on Thursday, New York Giants on Friday. I'm told by all accounts those went very well. Cleveland's visit was more of a get-to-know-you. They weren't really talking a lot of hard business. So he's in a position where he can and is ready to sign somewhere, but he appears to be the backup number 2 option in both Pittsburgh and New York. So he's got to wait on that Rodgers domino to fall, most likely. Meanwhile, Cleveland is the wild card. They could go a lot of different directions here.
Interesting. Wilson has a QBR 51 in each of his past 2 seasons, but yet would definitely be an upgrade for both the Giants or the Browns, depending on where he would go. Thank you, Jeremy. I know we'll talk a lot to you here shortly. Niners are bringing back Pro Bowl fullback Kyle Yuse-Cheek. Sources tell ESPN's Adam Schefter the 2 sides have agreed to a 2-year deal worth $8 million. Yuse-Cheek spent the last 8 seasons in San Francisco, but was released by the team earlier this week. And now he is back. So even with Yuse-Cheek coming back, the Niners are going to look a lot different next season. Remember, they traded Deebo Samuel to Commanders. They also saw several other Pro Bowlers leave in free agency, like cornerback Javarius Ward and safety Tella.
Seahawks agreed to terms with former Rams receiver Cooper Kupp, a 3-year, $45 million deal. The former Super Bowl MVP and Offensive Player of the Year comes to the Hawks after 8 years with the Rams, joining a Seattle team in dire need of a receiver. Is returning home, by the way. He grew up in Washington. He attended school at Eastern Washington, so that's very cool. As NFL insider Jeremy Fowler is with us. So we know they needed a receiver. How did they convince Fly the Coop? How did they convince him to come home to the Coop?
Yeah, Hannah, the Seattle Seahawks put the full court press on Cooper Kupp. This is a recruitment. They were courting him on how he could best fit, how he could work with young receiver Jackson Smith in Jigba, how he could come home. So they really just tried to sell him on a vision for his next NFL chapter. There were some other teams involved, Denver Broncos. Teams just weren't willing to go that far. The New Orleans Saints a little bit, Dallas Cowboys flirted with it, but in the end, Seattle was the most aggressive, it seemed, by a large margin.
It seemed like those two would be a very solid receiver combo there in Seattle. It'll be interesting to see what they can do with Darnold. Yeah. Meanwhile, what the heck is happening in Cincinnati? When are these guys going to sign Jamar Chase and T. Higgins?
Well, I keep hearing Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are close on new deals, mega extensions. They could be spending $70 million a year on 2 wide receivers. There's a lot allocated for just that position, but Jamar Chase, the expectation league-wide is that he could be a $40 million a year man because executive Duke Tobin is on the record that they want him to be the highest-paid non-quarterback. That is going to cost some serious coin, but they should be able to work that out, should be close. And the T. Higgins really is a little bit of a wild card here because he's on the franchise tag at a low number at $26 million. It's going to cost more than that to get a long-term deal done with him. The people I've talked to around the league expect this to fall somewhere maybe $28 to $29 million a year. Maybe he gets to 30. They still have to work out some of those details. But my understanding is both of these are close to done, if not done at this point. And so the Bengals are trying to pull off this trifecta. They have Chase. They have Higgins, hopefully in the fold here soon. Trey Hendrickson, the pass rusher.
What's going on there?
Yeah, they have been talking with him again. I know there's been some trade talks. I don't think the Bengals are overly eager to trade him. It would take a big haul, maybe even a first-round pick. And so they are still talking with Hendrickson to see if they can try to find a